It was a gray morning in the city, the kind of cold that made your breath curl into the air and sink heavy against your chest. People hurried across cracked sidewalks clutching coffee cups, clutching briefcases, their eyes fixed anywhere but the faces around them. Everyone in a rush, everyone carrying something invisible. On the corner, just outside the children's wing of the hospital, sat a boy no more than 9, his small frame wrapped in a coat, 2 sizes too big, sleeves rolled to the elbows, one boot patched with tape as if it had already walked through more winters than it should have. He was quiet, not begging, not reaching for help, just sitting on a folded piece of cardboard sketching shapes into a worn notebook, a red knit cap pulled low, almost hiding his eyes. Most people passed without looking. A few slowed down, curiosity flickering but kept moving. He was just another forgotten face in the city, another story people assumed they already knew. But that boy had a name. His name was Eli, and though he looked like every other child worn down by a hard world, there was something about him, something that made strangers pause for a second longer, something that was waiting to be discovered. Across the street, a car door opened. A man stepped out carrying in his arms a girl no older than 6, her head resting against his shoulder, her legs unmoving beneath a blanket, the kind of stillness that told you this wasn't just tiredness. This was permanent, or at least it was supposed. To be the man's face was tight with exhaustion, grief woven into the lines around his eyes. His suit wrinkled from too many nights in waiting rooms. He moved toward the hospital doors with the kind of determination only a desperate parent carries. Eli Asig looked up from his notebook, his gaze fixed on the girl not with pity, but with a strange calm, like he could see something others couldn't. His small voice cut through the shuffle of traffic and footsteps. "Sir, I can help your daughter walk again." Man froze halfway to the entrance, his grip on the child tightening his head. Turning slowly, the words didn't sound like a joke. They didn't sound like a plea. They sounded like a fact spoken with the quiet certainty of someone who had already seen it happen. He stared at the boy. "What did you just say?" Eli stood closing the notebook under his arm, his voice steady, clearer than it had any right to be for a child that young. "I said, I can heal her." The father's jaw tightened, anger, confusion, disbelief. All at once, the city noise pressed in around them, but for a moment it felt like the whole street had gone silent. The boy didn't flinch. He didn't smile. He simply stood waiting as if he knew the words would not be forgotten. The man's name was Daniel Hayes, a successful contractor, the kind of man who built things for a living but couldn't fix the one thing that mattered most. His daughter Lily had been in a chair for almost a year. The accident had stolen more than her movement. It had stolen her laughter too. He looked at the boy in the patched coat, his voice low, almost trembling. "Do you think this is funny?" Eli didn't move, didn't flinch. His head tilted slightly, his eyes too steady for a child. "No, sir, I don't joke about walking." Daniel scoffed, tightening his grip on Lily. Her eyes fluttered open at the sound, her small gaze flicking between the boy and her father. She didn't say anything, but she was listening. Daniel turned toward the hospital doors, shaking his head. But even as he walked, his chest burned with the echo of the boy's words. They didn't sound desperate. They didn't sound like fantasy. They sounded heavy, like truth. Inside, the waiting rooms looked the same as they always did. Harsh lights, white. Walls, chairs lined in rows. Specialists with charts and polished words that all meant the same thing. Progress takes time. Hope comes in inches, not miles. Daniel had heard it all, and every phrase felt like a door closing. But Eli's words followed. "Him, I can help her walk again." They rattled in his head, refusing to be ignored the way some things get under your skin and stay there. Hours later, when the appointments ended and Lily was wheeled back to the car, Daniel stepped outside the cold, sharper, now biting at his face, and there he was again, the boy still on the same piece of cardboard notebook at his side as if he had been waiting all along. Daniel slowed his steps, his voice harsher than he intended. "You're still here?" Eli looked up. "Yes, sir, I said I would." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean? You said you would be. I didn't ask you for anything." The boy shrugged softly. Maybe not with words, but you did. His eyes flicked toward Lily, who was watching him again, her tiny fingers curling. Around the blanket, Daniel exhaled, frustrated, ready to push past him, but something stopped him. It wasn't the boy's persistence, it was his calm. There was no begging, no hustle, just a strange assurance that tugged at Daniel in a way he hated too. Admit felt like hope? Listen, kid, Daniel muttered, lowering Lily into her seat. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what she's been through. I don't need to, Eli said, his voice even. I just need a chance. 1 hour, Daniel stared at him. The absurdity colliding with the exhaustion in his bones, every instinct told him to walk away. But then Lily whispered so softly he almost missed it. Daddy let him try. The words froze him more than anything else his daughter had barely spoken. About walking in months, and now she was asking. Daniel shut the car door slowly, his hand gripping the handle too tight. He turned back to the boy. 1 hour tomorrow. Harrington Park. Noon, don't be late. Eli nodded. Once, calm. Certain, I'll be there, Daniel. Slid into the driver's seat, started the engine and pulled away, but in the rearview mirror he saw the boy still standing still, watching, no smile, no fear, just waiting. The next day, the sky over Birmingham was pale gray, the kind that made everything look washed out. The basketball court at Harrington Park sat cracked and uneven weeds curling through the edges. The swings clinked softly in the breeze. No children played there at noon. Only one boy sat on the wooden bench, a towel folded neatly. Beside him, a small duffel bag at his feet. Eli was early. He always was. The oversized jacket swallowed his frame, but he wore it like armor. His taped boots tapped the ground as he swung his legs slowly, waiting at 12:07. The black SUV rolled. Up gravel crunching beneath its tires, Daniel stepped out, his jaw clenched and his tie loose from a morning of restless pacing. He walked around to the back, lifting Lily gently from her seat. She wore a pale yellow sweater and clutched a small stuffed rabbit against her chest. Her eyes found Eli instantly. The boy rose to his feet, polite, steady. Hi again, he said. Daniel gave a stiff nod. Lily offered a small shy wave. Eli's lips curved just slightly. Lily, Daniel frowned. How do you know her name? You said it yesterday. Eli answered simply. I remember things, Daniel muttered under his breath. Unbelievable, but he followed anyway, wheeling Lily across the patch of cracked pavement toward the bench. What now? Kid magic tricks? No, sir. Eli replied calmly. No magic, just the basics. He opened the bag, pulling out a jar of cocoa butter, a tennis ball, a pair of thick socks, and a cloth pouch tied with string. Daniel raised an eyebrow. What's this? Junk. It's what my mama used to use, Eli said, his voice softer. But steady the rice in the cloth is for heat, helps the muscles loosen. The ball is for pressure, points. The socks help, keep the warmth in. She taught me these things when I was little. Daniel folded his arms, watching every movement, suspicion heavy. In his gaze, Eli crouched beside Lily. If it's okay, can I work with your legs for a while? Nothing will hurt. I promise, and if anything feels strange, you just say, stop. Lily looked up at her father. Her eyes wide, Daniel sighed heavily. Fine, but I'm right here, and if anything goes wrong, this ends. Eli nodded. That's fair. He carefully unwrapped the blanket from Lily's legs and placed the warm rice pack over her thighs. She flinched slightly too hot. He asked. She shook her head. It feels good. Minutes passed. The boy moved with patience. Small. Rotations side to side, gentle stretches. His hands steady his words. Soft. Lily began to answer his questions at first, short, then longer. Her favorite color, her favorite movie, her favorite food. The stiffness in her body seemed to ease, not because of magic, but because someone finally asked her about her world, not just her condition. Daniel shifted uncomfortably, his arms still crossed, but something inside him loosened too. He wanted to dismiss it as coincidence, but he couldn't shake the way his daughter's eyes lit brighter than they had in months. After half an hour, Eli tapped gently against her knee. Feel that he asked, Lily blinked. hesitated a little. Like pressure, she whispered. Daniel stiffened. She says that sometimes during therapy sessions. Eli only nodded, unfazed. The body remembers even when it forgets for a while. Daniel stared at him for a long second, not ready to believe, but no longer able to ignore the possibility. The following Sunday was warmer sunlight slipping through the branches above Harrington Park, but Eli still wore the same oversized jacket, the sleeves rolled and frayed. It made him feel close to his mother. She used to call it his helpers. Coate said every healer needed something that reminded them why they cared. He was already waiting when Daniel's SUV rolled up. Lily leaned forward in her seat, a spark in her eyes. She waved at Eli before her father even opened the door. Eli waved back. "Hi, Lily, ready." She grinned and nodded. Daniel lifted her carefully into the chair, wheeled her across the grass to where Eli had already laid out a towel, and his few simple tools. Daniel carried nothing but skepticism, but something about the boy's quiet confidence kept pulling him back. Today, Eli began. The same routine, the warm pack, the gentle stretches, the soft questions. But halfway through, he tried something different. "Can you press your heel into the ground?" he asked Lily, focused her brow, furrowing her toes, twitching. Nothing obvious happened. Her shoulders slumped. "It's okay," Eli said quickly. "Sometimes it takes time for the brain to find the right path. It's like walking through a crowd. You just have to push through." Daniel stood behind, arms crossed against the chill, his voice sharp. "Why do you do this? What are you getting out of it?" Eli glanced up without pausing, his hand still steady on Lily's legs. "Because I remember what it felt like when my mama helped people. She made them feel like they mattered. I want to do that too." Lily tried again. Her toes tapped against the towel. Barely a movement, but it was there. Daniel's breath caught, though he said nothing. Eli smiled softly. "See, your body remembers." Lily's grin widened. "I felt that." Daniel swallowed hard, turning away under. The weight of it, for the first time in months, he couldn't dismiss what he saw. He didn't speak, but the disbelief on his face had cracked. The session ended with Lily brighter than she had been in months. Eli began packing his things when Daniel crouched down beside him quietly, his voice low. "You hungry, kid?" Eli froze, then nodded. Maybe Daniel pulled a folded bill from his coat and held it out. Eli stepped back. "No, sir, I don't want your money." Daniel frowned. Then, "Why are you doing this, Eli?" Shrugged because she smiled. Daniel turned, looking at Lily sitting taller in her chair, a faint glow in her eyes. He couldn't remember the last time he saw that smile. The drive home was silent, except for Lily, humming softly to herself a tune she hadn't hummed since before the accident. Daniel gripped the wheel tighter, his chest heavy with something he dared not call hope, but couldn't deny was there. By the fourth Sunday, clouds rolled thick above Harrington Park, the breeze colder, the grass damp beneath Eli's towel, but he was there as always, jacket-zipped notebook tucked away, waiting with that same quiet patience. When the SUV pulled up, Eli could tell before the door opened that something was wrong. Lily's head was down, her face pressed against the stuffed rabbit. Jonathan's movements were sharper, angrier than usual. He lifted her out quickly, setting her in the chair without meeting Eli's eyes. "She doesn't want to do it today," he muttered, his jaw tight. Eli crouched, low, meeting Lily's gaze. "What happened?" She crossed her arms, her voice small and sharp. "I tried to move my legs this morning. Nothing happened. I'm tired of trying. It's pointless." Eli's expression didn't change, but his voice softened. "You think? I never get tired. You think I didn't sit in a shelter crying when my mama couldn't afford medicine, and I had to just watch her hurt?" Lily's eyes flicked toward him, uncertain. "You're allowed to be mad," Eli said. "I get mad too, but if you stop. Now the part of you that wants to walk might stop trying too," she whispered. "I'm scared." Jonathan froze. That was the first time she had said it out loud. Ellie leaned closer. "Me too, but scared doesn't mean stop. It just means you're close to something." Big Lily's lip trembled. Her fingers tightened around the rabbit. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's try again." The session was quieter than usual. No jokes, no stories. Just focus. Jonathan knelt beside his daughter for the first time following Eli's instructions. Carefully lifting her weight, shifting her gently, encouraging each twitch of muscle, Eli guided every movement with steady hands. After half an hour, Lily's foot slid forward, slow, stiff but undeniable. Jonathan's eyes widened. "Do it again," he whispered. She did. Eli leaned back, the faintest smile on his face. Lily's grin stretched wide. "Daddy, I did it." Jonathan's throat tightened. He knelt beside her, pulling her into his arms, laughing and crying at once. "Yes, baby, you did?" That night, Jonathan stood in his driveway, staring up at the pale moonlight, his chest heavy with a feeling he had buried for too long. Inside the house, he could hear Lily retelling the moment to her aunt, giggling through every word. It had been months since their home sounded. Like that, not like a hospital. Not like silence, but like life. Jonathan closed his eyes for a moment and whispered, "Thank you," though he wasn't sure if it was meant for Eli, for his daughter, or for the miracle of seeing hope flicker back into his world. The following week, Harrington Park looked different. The cracked court still stood. The swings still groaned in the wind, but the air felt fuller. Voices echoed. Laughter drifted from corners where silence usually sat, because this time, Jonathan didn't just bring Lily. He brought an extra mat, a fold-out chair, and even a sandwich wrapped in foil, which he placed quietly beside Eli's bag. Ali nodded softly, "Thanks, sir," and tucked it away. Lily was already smiling before her chair even rolled. "Onto the grass. Ready, let's do it," she chirped. Eli grinned, "Hi, superstar." The routine began. Heat packs, gentle stretches, tapping nerves, asking questions this time. Jonathan joined, fully kneeling on the grass, mimicking Eli's movements, even fumbling. "Once you're bending the wrong way, kid," Eli teased gently. Jonathan gave a short laugh. "I haven't stretched since college." Lily giggled a sound that cut through the chill and warmed the space around them. Halfway through, Eli pulled a belt from his bag, slipping it under Lily's knees, explaining patiently she's going to try lifting them just a little. "We hold the ends. She controls the movement." Jonathan hesitated. "You sure? She's ready." Eli nodded. "Steady." "Yes, sir, she is." They braced her, the hockey eater, air thick with anticipation. Lily squeezed her eyes shut, her brow furrowed. Then slowly, both knees lifted just an inch, but they lifted. Jonathan froze, eyes wide with disbelief. "You did that." Lily smiled, proud. "I did it." Her father's voice cracked. "You really did." Eli's calm voice cut through. "See, the body remembers. It just needs patience." Jonathan stared at him, his throat tight. "You're something else, kid." Eli only shrugged already, guiding Lily gently into the next stretch. When the session ended, Jonathan crouched beside Eli, lowering his voice. "Where do you go after this?" Eli hesitated around Jonathan, frowned. "You got a place to sleep." Silence hung heavy. Then Eli admitted sometimes. Jonathan rubbed the back of his neck, thinking carefully. "You ever think about staying with us for a while?" Eli's eyes widened. "You serious? I got a guest room," Jonathan said firmly. "You wouldn't be in the way." Eli looked down, unsure what neighbors would think. Jonathan gave a small laugh. "After what you've done for my daughter, they better not say a word." For the first time, Eli didn't have a quick reply, but Jonathan could see the battle in his eyes, the mix of pride, fear, and a longing for something steady. The next morning, as the sun broke over Crestview Drive, Eli stood at the Reeves' front door, backpack over one shoulder-rolled blanket tucked under his arm. Jonathan opened the door in sweatpants, coffee mug in hand, right on time. He said. Lily squealed from the hallway. "Zeke." Eli smiled. "Hey, superstar." Jonathan stepped aside. "Welcome home." Inside, for the first time, Eli had a bed, a desk clean, sheets, a door of his own. He didn't say much, but the silence in that house was no longer empty. It was full of something new. Footsteps, scribbles, small bursts of laughter, and the sound of healing. By the 7th Sunday, the park was no longer quiet when they arrived. 2 other families were already waiting near the oak tree. One boy leaned. On a walker, a girl sat in a chair, her parents watching with nervous hope. Jonathan froze at the sight, turning to Eli. "You don't have to do this." Kid Eli adjusted the strap on his bag, his voice calm but sure. "I want to." That day, he spread 2 towels. Instead of one, he showed the parents how to warm the rice packs, how to stretch gently, how to listen to every small reaction more important than the movements. Was the way he spoke to the kids, not at them, but to them. "You're not broken," he told. The boy with the walker. "You're just learning a different way to be strong." Jonathan stood nearby, watching in silence. Pride pressing against his ribs. Lily sat on her blanket, her rabbit in her lap. No jealousy in her eyes, just quiet joy as she saw. Others smile like she had weeks before. Word spread faster than any of them expected. The next Sunday, 5 families came, then 11. A pastor brought folding chairs, a diner dropped off bagels, someone printed flyers, free movement classes. Harrington. Park Sundays at noon. They didn't print Eli's name, but everyone knew. A local reporter showed up one morning, notebook in hand, camera slung around her shoulder. She asked Jonathan for a comment. He pulled Eli aside. "You okay with this?" Eli looked at the kids, stretching, moving, laughing. He nodded. "As long as it's not about me, it's about them." The article ran a week later, a small piece buried on the second page. 9-year-old with a gift helps dozens heal in a city park. It didn't name him fully, but people found out anyway. Offers poured in, a doctor wanting to mentor him, a nonprofit offering equipment, someone else promising tutoring. Eli didn't brag. He didn't even change his routine. He still laid out the towel in the same spot, still wore the taped boots, still asked Lily first how she was feeling before helping anyone else. But now, Harrington Park pulsed with life, with hope, with families who no longer felt so alone. Jonathan noticed the shift too. His house no longer heavy with silence, it hummed with laughter, with the scratch of Eli's pencil across notebook pages, with Lily's voice telling stories again one night. As Jonathan rinsed dishes, he glanced over at the boy sketching at the table. "You ever think about going back to school?" Eli shrugged. "Sometimes," Jonathan nodded. "You're smart. You could go far." Eli tilted his head. "I just want to help people walk again like my mama did." Jonathan turned, drying his hands. "Then let's figure out how to get you there." Eli smiled, small but real. "Okay." The man who had once scoffed at the boy outside a hospital now saw him for what he truly was. Not just a helper, not just a healer, but a reminder that hope could be found in the unlikeliest places. By the 9th, Sunday, the park felt different. Families didn't just arrive with folding chairs. They came with expectation, with hope, with belief. The cracked basketball court and rusted swings were forgotten. The only thing that mattered was the small circle, forming beneath the oak tree. Eli unpacked his bag as always, towel, rice packs, tennis ball, cocoa butter. His motions quiet, precise. This time he paused, looking at Lily. "You ready?" She nodded, not smiling, just focused. Jonathan wheeled her to the center of the mat. Eli knelt before her, his voice steady, same as before. "We help you stand. You do the rest." Jonathan slipped his arms under her shoulders. Eli steadied her knees together. They counted 1, 2, 3. Jonathan lifted Eli, braced, and Lily rose. Her legs shook, her arms trembled, but she was up, standing on her own feet for the first time since the accident. The crowd fell silent. No whispers, no shuffling, only wide eyes and held breaths. She opened her eyes slowly. "I'm standing." Eli swallowed. "Hard." "Yeah, you are." Jonathan froze, afraid to move. Then he let go. She wobbled but stayed up. His chest tightened, tears pushing past the walls he had built for months. "She's doing it," he whispered. "She's really doing it." Then it happened. The step, her right foot slid forward, then her left. Another step, then a third. Shaky and brave. Before she stumbled into her father's arms, he caught her crying and laughing in the same breath. "You did it. You really did it." Lily looked at Eli. "I told you." she said. Softly. You said, I could. Eli grinned. I said we'd try. No one left the park quickly that day. People lingered, hugging, clapping some praying, others simply staring at the space where a little girl had just walked. The air felt changed, heavier, yet lighter, as if something sacred had happened on cracked concrete beneath an old oak tree. That night, Jonathan leaned against the counter watching Eli pour cereal. You know, you changed everything. The boy didn't look up. I did. Jonathan stepped closer. My daughter. Walked today not because of a hospital or a doctor or a miracle drug, but because a kid with taped boots showed up again and again. Eli nodded. That's what my mom would have done. Jonathan's throat tightened. I wish she could have seen this, Eli's voice softened. She did. She sees everything. Jonathan closed his eyes, breathing in the truth. The story didn't stop there. The next weekend, the park doubled the weekend after that. News crews arrived, politicians posted hashtags, strangers mailed letters. Eli didn't care about the cameras or the headlines. He still sat cross-legged in the grass, still asked Lily how she felt before helping anyone else, still believed healing was about patience, about presence, about reminding the body what it could do, and maybe that's the lesson. Sometimes the greatest healers aren't the ones with degrees or labs or titles. Sometimes they're kids with duct-taped boots and a reason to keep showing up. Sometimes the people we overlook carry the very gift we're desperate for. If this story touched, you don't just keep it to yourself. Share it so others remember that hope can come from the most unexpected places. And if you want to hear more stories like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join us and never miss a moment that could change the way you see the world.